If you have a 1080p monitor and you wanna buy a new gaming PC, this is going to be the right video for you. I will show you a cheap $500 gaming PC that is going to perform great at 1080p every single game, ultra settings without any issues. I will also explain how to make this PC a bit more expensive in case you want some extra performance. Now, if your budget is way above $500, then you will have my website down below in the video description, as well with all of these components that I'm going to mention. In my website, you just have to click your favorite game, your budget, and you will have the estimated FPS with a recommended PC build. Anyway, if you don't know anything about components, don't worry about it. I will explain what this PC is capable of running and whether you should upgrade something or not. That being said, let's start. For the CPU, I picked the AMD Ryzen 5 5500, going for around $100. This is, in my opinion, the best price to performance budget CPU out there. Of course, you can get the AMD Ryzen 5 5600 and it's going to give you a better performance, especially at 1080p, but that is going to cost you a bit more and we are on a tight budget here. For the motherboard, I picked the Asus Prime B450M/A Micro ATX motherboard. This is nothing fancy, but it's only $80 and it's going to give you enough features for gaming. It also has BIOS flashback in case you need it for the AMD Ryzen 5 5500. For the memory kit, I picked the Silicon Power 16GB of RAM 2x8 of DDR4 at 3200 MHz. This is the standard for gaming nowadays. Recently, I've made a video about whether you need 32GB of RAM or 16GB of RAM for gaming. I highly recommend you watching that video where I test 16GB against 32GB of RAM in different titles. I would definitely not recommend anything below 16GB of RAM since it's going to hurt your performance overall, and not only in gaming but also for productivity work. For the storage, I picked the Team Group MP33 512GB SSD kit. This is a Gen 3 SSD, really fast, and honestly 500GB is enough to get you started. Now, I do recommend you going with 1TB if you have the extra money, especially because the motherboard only comes with one M.2 slot. So if you think you are going to download a bunch of games and not only 2 or 3, then I highly recommend you getting at least 1TB of SSD and pay the premium. For the graphics card, we had the AMD RX 5600 XT. Now, this is from the used market from eBay, so if you wanna buy brand new, I will tell you my recommendation later on this video, but for around $130 you can get this GPU, which is going to perform really similar to the RTX 2060. Basically a great GPU for the price, and it's going to perform better than the RTX 3050, and the RTX 3050 is much more expensive. With this GPU, you will be able to run every single game, ultra settings at 1080p, at least 60 FPS on average. Of course, it's going to depend on the game. If we are talking about esports titles such as Fortnite and Valorant, you will be able to achieve more than 100 FPS on average in competitive settings. That being said, if you want a high refresh rate monitor at 1080p, feel free to buy one of those. But then if you also want a great experience with more high demanding titles such as Cyberpunk 2077 or Red Dead Redemption 2, this GPU is capable of running those at 1080p without any issues, and we are talking about high settings. Then for the case, I picked the Rosewill Prism S500. This one comes with 6 pre-installed fans, which is a lot, and the airflow overall is pretty good. Now, it's a different airflow setup from the average case, and the power supply goes up. If you want a different case, you will have an alternative down below in the video description. Just know that it's going to be around $10 to $20 more expensive. And then last but not least, the power supply, I picked the Thermaltake Smart BM2 550 watt 80 plus bronze power supply. This is a C tier rated on the PSU Cultist list, meaning that it's going to be good quality for this type of build. However, if down the line you want a really high-end CPU and GPU, you will also have to change the power supply, not only because of the rating but also because of the wattage. But for this type of build, 550 watts is going to be more than enough, and even if you want to upgrade to, let's say, the RX 6650 XT, you can do this without needing to change the power supply, which is a good thing for the upgradability of your system. Now, the total price for this system, by the time that I'm recording this video, is $480, but I do recommend you checking the prices from the list in the video description because the prices keep changing every single day. So as you can see, for less than $500 you can get a really solid 1080p performance. But what if you have more money to spend? Well, in that case, the first thing I do recommend you upgrading is the storage to 1TB of SSD in the Team Group MP33. This one is $45, so it's not that much more expensive than the 500GB kit, and you still under $500 when buying this storage kit instead of the last one. And then, especially if you don't want to buy from the used market, I recommend you going with the RX 6600 brand new, but this graphics card is $250, making the this whole PC build $615. If that's your budget, that's perfect because you will get a better 1080p experience while using less power, so it's much more efficient. That's my recommendation. If you can afford the brand new RX 6600, then by all means go for it. But if you can't, I do recommend you checking the used market. Because let's say you wanna buy a GPU for $130 brand new, then you're going to have a hard time finding a good deal, since those GPUs are usually not good at all. Even for 1080p, trust me, you want at least the RX 6600 or the RTX 2060, but that one is even more expensive and it's going to give you less performance than the RX 6600. You can of course upgrade other stuff such as the motherboard, maybe add a CPU cooler if you want a more quiet experience, but if I would have to make another upgrade if I had more money, it would be the CPU to the Ryzen 5 5600 for the best performance increase for the price. Remember, if you want better performance, you want to upgrade the CPU and GPU, especially the GPU. As long as your whole build is enough not to bottleneck the CPU and GPU, then you're good to go. And if you even have more money, then I recommend you watching my video about the best $750 1440p gaming PC build, where not only you can game at 1080p really high FPS, but you can also start playing at 1440p without any issues. And if you have any questions, let me know down below in the comment section. I'll try to reply as fast as possible, whether it's for PC build or Prebuilt PCs. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.